The conflicting presidencies underscore just how little remains today of the grand old party that Bush once led. First Republican pillars of free trade, federal spending, and environmental protection. Bush was a globalist, and Trump is a nationalist. Trump is putting America first, and Bush realized there had to be a new world order with things of the UN. Not only is he rebuilding, he's retitling it and renaming it as fair trade. Federal spending? Would somebody tell me when it's ever gone down? Which part? No. The Republicans never did it, really. They talked about it. Democrats just never talked about it. Republicans always, it was a pillar. And the Republican House in 1994 did balance the budget one year and did create a surplus. And what did the Democrats say we needed to do with it? We need to get rid of the Defense Department now. We need civility. We long for the days when we return to civility, right? That's what we see we have lost now with the death of George H.W. Bush. But the media never treated George H.W. Bush with civility. They never said these wonderful, glowing things about him when he was alive and when he was a candidate, when he was president. In fact, why did this very same media, some of the very same people who were in the media back in 1988 to 92 and beyond are in it today, the saint of today, George H.W. Bush, when he ran for re-election? If civility was so important, it's such a big thing, why'd they back the serial sex abuser and then defend the guy for the next 8 years? So did her brother, Ronaldus Magnus's son. This is, I don't know, look, this woman spent so much time attacking her own father when he was president and afterwards, and so did her brother, Ronaldus Magnus's son. Her, but she didn't accept his name. And in her most recent example of dignity and civility, Patty Davis has attacked Trump's response to the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh. Doesn't know how to do it. She's channeling the late Peter Jennings of ABC News, who said the same thing about George W. Bush, that he didn't know. Interesting how no Republican president knows how to do anything until they die. And then they become wonderful. So Trump doesn't have the dignity, the empathy. He doesn't care enough about people to really convince anybody he does. Who isn't? Who's qualified and who isn't? H.W. Bush, simply the latest platform example for the drive-bys and other leftist. The woman who wrote the piece is castigating anybody and everybody who thinks this dog has anything to do with the Bush family. The dog's only been there 6 months. They're using the dog. The Bushes are using the dog. The dog doesn't even know what's going on. The dog is being told to lay next to the casket. That's what it does. Walter Reed, and it's going to be assigned to another serviceman. The dog doesn't know what's happening. The dog is being used, and people are foolish if they are investing any emotion whatsoever in this dog. Now, this is from our friends on the left who own the rights in their own mind to compassion and civility. And they even have to spend time writing a piece denigrating a dog. The picture of Sully, named after the airline captain, by the way, that says, GOP laments Bush's death as end of a culture of civility. What? I don't understand this. Barack Obama, how do you think Obama feels? All this talk about the lack and the end of civility, and he was president for 8 years. Don't you think? Be crediting, because that's what they really thought he was, the epitome of sophistication. Don't you know? Sharpest crease in his slacks anybody ever been in. If somebody's smarter than anybody else, why is he not being credited with some? We're concerned. We got things done because Bush abandoned Reaganism for bipartisanship. And that's how things work in Washington, Tim. And when those things happen, we're not concerned. See, when Republicans turn against themselves, that's how we define bipartisanship. There's George Mitchell. You would be stunned at the number of millennials who believe exactly that. That the whole political party is in favor of dirty water, and yet you'd be stunned at the number of people when they just hear the word conservative think, you like dirty, you like polluting, you're opposed to climate change, you're opposed to saving the earth. That's what they think. And not a whiteout. Same difference. White lash, backlash, whiteout. Ladies and gentlemen, I took a little break here at the top of the hour and got back down in the chair about 90 seconds before the program beginning. And the minute I walked back in and checked TV, Dole being helped up out of his wheelchair was where it is in the rotunda, and they had steered Bob Dole's wheelchair as close to the rope line as possible, and he insisted on standing up. He can't stand. What people don't know is that Bush and Dole had an incredible rivalry, and at one time in their lives it was a political rival, it wasn't personal. Bush was chairman of the RNC at some point, and deep and filled with rancor as most any rivalry you've ever heard of. It didn't get a lot of notice, however, but for people who knew, it was a serious one. And there was things that Bob Dole thought he had worked for and had earned, he routinely saw Bush get, and saw himself be undercut. And while I say it's not personal, some of it was, but it was all about, personal acrimony having to do with things outside politics. He demanded that his aide pick him up. And his aide was propping him up. Incredible thing. He insisted on it. He insisted on standing. He insisted no matter that even when he began to fall back, you see him shake his head.